a man or friend, why am I in this terrible, compressing, life-sucking relationship? So don't beat yourself up, guys, if you find yourself here, and know that you will evolve and get to a place of strength in your sensitivity. I want to put that on a bumper sticker, have strength in your sensitivity. I was super weak for a long time. Like, these are my confessions. I was super weak, and I super took a lot of junk from a lot of people, and I didn't stand up for myself, and I didn't set boundaries. And even today, even over the last few weeks, I found myself in positions where I thought, I should have set a better boundary. But you know what I am grateful for in that moment is I realized that even occurs to me. That never occurred to me. Empaths often are divorced from their body because of whatever trauma they may have experienced, so they don't connect with their feelings in the moment. I remember telling friends situations or scenarios that had happened, like with that crazy boss who said women don't ask for raises. And I didn't get mad about it for like a month, while the girlfriend that I told was immediately fuming mad about it. She connected because she was connected with her body and her spirit at that moment. And she was like, that is absolutely insane. It is wrong. And she read me the riot act and explained it to me. But it wasn't until a month later that I felt this slowly creeping thing. Oh, that was really an abuse of power. That was weird. That was this and that. And so empaths, I want you to understand that you will reconnect. I certainly have begun to reconnect, but sometimes you are divorced from your feelings in the immediate moment, where anybody else would say, red flag, run. Or when people heard the Cult Show, they said, girl, I would have left that the first thing you said. I was very divorced from my emotions because I was taught. And I learned, as an empath, that boundaries don't matter as long as you're helping people. And, yeah, people do weird things. And I was super tolerant and super willing to allow a lot of things. Not anymore. So that's an important thing to remember, too. So I got to experience the idea of boundaries, and I learned about myself, and I learned to be strong from my place of sensitivity. Now, Dr. Elaine Aron has written a wonderful book called The Highly Sensitive Persons, and in her book, she describes highly sensitive people as people who have a genetic trait of sensory processing sensitivity. That's a mouthful, but they have a genetic trait of sensory processing sensitivity. 15 to 20% of the population are HSPs, or highly sensitive persons. And she has this wonderful acronym to help you remember, and it is DOES. And so it stands for D, which is depth of processing. As HSPs, we have a phenomenal ability to deeply process and analyze. The O stands for overstimulation, because we get quickly overwhelmed by the world around us. Now, I definitely can relate, and I want to say this. In my life, the most productive I have ever been thus far has been in this moment, where I have been able to build a thriving clientele via word of mouth, as well as having the opportunity to independently contract for the work that I do. And my point is that having removed myself from the world at large makes me much better at my job. It makes me a much better Monette, period, because I'm able to feel my feelings without being encumbered by the onslaught of the energy around me. Now, recently, I was just out in the world. Like I said, I was traveling, and I spent time, and I was at a graduation for this beautiful young woman who's 23, just turned 24, I think, and she's a doctor, and I'm just so impressed. I want to be her when I grow up. And I got to spend time with old friends, and that felt like family, and have great conversations into the morning, which I haven't done in years, and it was wonderful. But what I realized is that, wow, I really need time away to process and decompress, because all that energy, I'm always analyzing everything that's going on in those moments. And that is what highly sensitive people do. And it's very important to decompress. So the way that I work now, the manner in which I work, the way that I allow myself to be around people for shorter amounts of time is the best thing that I ever have done for myself. I had a friend that once said to me, Monette, you cover 50 county miles in 50 minutes or something like that, because I was always on the run. I think I was scared of my gifts, and I was scared of tuning in, and so I kept myself insanely busy to avoid feeling my feelings. Now things have really slowed down, but isn't it amazing and ironic that things in my life and career-wise have incredibly picked up because I have the energy to devote to it, and I also am hearing clearly about what I should be devoting. So that's something I wanted to touch on there in regards to that overstimulation. Empaths, intuitives, and psychics, if you are listening, pull yourself out of the fray. Pull yourself out of the cacophony of the world and find out how quickly you get really grounded and in tune with what you are supposed to be doing and what your truth is. So I'm not saying that everybody has to do what I did, but my point is that having removed me makes me much better at my job, like I said, because I'm not around the onslaught. For me, it has been a vital piece in my sanity and my career puzzle. And lastly, the S stands for the awareness, or excuse me, we're missing the E. The E stands for empathy. So that's just about the way that we're feeling and understanding everything. And the S stands for the awareness of subtleties. Wow, this is one that I really love. And we'll talk about that in a minute more, but HSPs are like finely tuned sensors, and we are able to pick up on the most minutest things. I'm talking to people, and I'm watching when they cross their arms, because what being an HSP means for me, or being an empath, or whatever you want to label it, means is that I'm picking up on the tiny nuances. If I come into a room and you're playing music loud, I'm paying attention to that. That means you don't want to talk. You may not say it to me. I hear it. I feel it. If I'm talking to you or I'm observing people talk and I see the arms get crossed, body language basics, I understand you're protecting yourself while wanting to maybe extract something or something else. So I'm paying attention to the nuances, and in my life too, you know, it's important to be aware and know that these things are happening, because they are. There's sometimes things that people don't always pay attention to, and there's sometimes things that people would say, Monette, you might be reading too much into that, but I've made my living reading too much into things, and I've learned to trust my voice and my intuition, and I'm right. Not always, but most of the time I'm right, and you're right too. That's what I want you to leave with today, understanding that this isn't about me. This is the show. We're talking, and I'm on it, but this is about you trusting yourself and knowing when you're right and not second-guessing that moment when you're right. So pay attention to the awareness of the subtleties. That's something that I do, and it has made me a better reader across the board. And I do readings via Skype and over the phone, so I'm not always seeing. I do readings by chat as well, so I'm not always seeing my clients. I don't get to hear the voice inflection. I can't do a cold reading. I'm really having to tap into that intuition, but there are subtleties in everything. So pay attention, guys. My work these days with myself means that I'm actively integrating my shadow. This means that I am the Monette that says no, or I say that doesn't work for me, or I say that isn't conducive to my schedule, or it doesn't feel right. I was always terrified to do that, guys, and can I say I'm proud of myself for doing it now? I do it. I think about it. It occurs to me without being coached or talked to. Now, I still have friends I talk to, and we, pass things back and forth, and that's what friendships are about. But I feel those things authentically in myself before I ever sometimes bring it to anybody or say, hey, what do you think about this? Like we all do. So that is what it means when I say I'm integrating my shadow, because I know that sometimes I don't want to be a people pleaser. That old self, the people pleaser that wanted to be all things to all people, I have slowly cut away. But I quickly realized that I'm living in ego if I find myself wanting to be too people-pleasing, because that is ego. Even though you think, oh, I'm doing something for someone else. No, you're doing something for the gratification of being seen as the person who is always there. And that is an ugly, honest truth about empaths and intuitives. We don't like to admit it, but that's the truth. And I've stopped that. I've understood my worth and what I'm deserving. There are words that are scary for people to hear. When I first heard it years ago from someone, I thought, who are you to say you're deserving? What does that even mean? Well, now I understand who I am to say that. And I understand who you are to say that. And I want you to know that about yourself, what you're worthy of, what you're deserving of, how you get to protect yourself. What powerful, amazing creatures we are, that we can do all of these things, and we don't have to just take what life hands us. And I'm so grateful for that knowledge, and so grateful to have a place to express that to you guys today. So that's something that I realized in regards to integrating my shadow self. I really need to switch gears sometimes when I get into ego and remember to ask myself, what feels right? So if you're highly sensitive, I want you to understand that it's okay to say no. Really take that in. Understand that it's okay to unplug from your religious agenda. This is big for me. Understand that it's okay to unplug from your political agenda. Understand that you need to figure out what makes you happy, what is your life experience, and what is your necessity. Your blueprint right now, guys, is needed in the world. You need to allow your vulnerability to be seen so that your needs can be met. That is something my mother always taught me, ask for what you want. And lately, I've been doing it. If I need something, I'm like, this is what I'm going to need in order for this to work for me. I've never wanted to do that. It felt so scary, and it felt like greedy. Like, oh, should I even do that? And now I do it. If it doesn't work for me, it doesn't work because I'm not happy and able to give you what you need, and you're not happy because you don't even realize I might need something. Be vulnerable, guys. Do not be afraid to ask for what you need, okay? So empaths, I want you to say this. Stop being so nice. Say it to yourself. I'm saying it to you. I say it to myself every morning. It's on my vision board. It's okay to say no. Be honest about your true feelings and the energy of righteous anger that does move through you sometimes, and let that anger move you into the direction of where you want to be. Again, integrating your shadow side. You don't have to be afraid of it. This is the work of the alchemist. This is the work of the healer. We are often going to places and into people, and we bring light, and we're transmuting light and darkness. But as with anything in life, there is much needed balance. In the beginning of my life, fresh from wherever I came from, I had an understanding, and I knew my powers, but I quickly forgot, as we all do. And along my journey, I began to notice patterns in behavior, and then in turn began to teach other highly sensitive clients how to spot narcissists and sociopaths like we talked about. Now, and especially in their own lives. Now, I'm going to do a quick checklist because I'm a fan of a checklist. I'm such a list writer. I don't even know when that happened in my life, but it has happened, so that you can become aware and you can extract yourself from any toxic exchanges. I'm going to do some balance here. We have a few minutes left in the show, so I don't just want to talk about the negative. I'm going to try to outweigh it with some positive things. And I'm going to do a quick rundown of the sociopaths so you can understand that, okay? Sociopaths are usually charming, okay? They have high charisma and tend to attract people. Remember, we talked about attraction because people want to be around them. They seem to have a glow about them. And this attracts people who typically seek guidance or direction. They often appear to be sexy or have a strong sexual attraction about them. Now, not all sexy people are sociopaths, guys, so calm down. But watch out for the over-the-top sexual appetites and weird fetishes. They do a thing called love bombing. If you're sexually involved with a sociopath, now I've just been friends with some of them. I wouldn't call it friends, but whatever. We've had friendships. I wouldn't say that I've had any lovers as sociopaths, but I've definitely had friendships as sociopaths or narcissists. So be careful, because the love bombing is a thing. That means you're the only most important thing in the world, and they're putting all their time and attention onto you, and then they retract that. That's just a hook to get you in. 2, sociopaths are more spontaneous and intense than other people. They tend to do bizarre things, erratic things that other people wouldn't do, or regular people, quote-unquote, wouldn't do. They're unbound by normal social contracts. One friend I had that was a sociopath, or again, I'm struggling with the word friend, but one of my teachers, let's call her that was a sociopath. I remember we first met, and she was so exciting and so interesting and charismatic to me, and we were going into a store, and she walked in with her socks on. Now, to anybody else, they would say, she's crazy, and they would run the other way and be like, Monette, duh. But she was very attractive, and she looked very well kept, but she was just like, I don't want to wear socks. And then I noticed that pattern in her life for the rest of the time that we were involved, is that she broke all the rules. She never followed any at work. She never did anything normal, ever. It was always extreme. She was always fighting. She was always defending. So that's something to notice with the sociopath. Sociopaths are incapable of feeling shame, guilt, or remorse. They also invent outrageous lies about their experiences. Watch out for that. They seek to dominate others and win at all costs. one of my experiences with that sociopath was that she was incredibly cutthroat. We would call it 9/11, meaning she would just go for your jugular, and she would absolutely like do the worst thing that you could imagine, and it wouldn't be called for. It was very much like